So I wasn't expecting such a luxurious introduction from Federica, but thank you for that as well. As she said, I've been part of the Rubin LSST community in different ways for over 15 years now, part of science collaborations, leading science collaborations, deputy director for Rubin, and now just barely over a month in a new role as the CEO and director for science for the LSST Corporation. So the things I'll be talking about today, I have the luxury of advertising all sorts of amazing things that a bunch of people who aren't me actually built and delivered. But I'm here excited today and the rest of the week to meet a lot of new colleagues who I haven't met before, catch up with old colleagues, and to really hear about what are you all excited about and what challenges do you foresee in anticipating your science in the era of LSST. And we've already heard what a fabulous time this is to have this workshop. I mean, we're looking at 2 years until we expect data to start being publicly shared off of ComCam. And we'll hear a lot about that later in the week from a variety of fabulous folks from the Rubin Project who will be here to talk about those things. But I'm going to focus on the corporation and its unique and complementary role to the Rubin Project. So the topics I'll focus on in this talk are first, simply what is LSSTC? I loved the demographics that Fed showed to kick off the talk, really underscoring that there are a lot of junior participants, which I love to see, even undergraduate students as well as graduate students and postdocs who really might be unfamiliar with the LSST Rubin ecosystem. In fact, a lot of non-junior people aren't very familiar with the Rubin LSST ecosystem. I'll advertise and highlight some of the LSSTC funded and implemented programs that have been successfully supporting preparations for Rubin LSST science, and some really exciting new things that were just funded and started to get implemented during the pandemic that we spent some time talking about last week at the LSSTC institutional board meeting we had in Arizona. And then just briefly at the end, how can you be more involved if you're interested in some of the programs that I have to talk about today? So I like the analogy of an ecosystem when thinking about the definition of and relationship between the Rubin Project, both construction and operations, the science collaborations, and the LSST Corporation. These are all independent and distinct entities that have critical relationships and give and take between each other. And the sum of all of these different entities really make the whole greater than the sum of its parts. We all benefit each other. So the Rubin Project, which again, you'll hear a lot about from other people this week, is building and will operate the observatory system that will conduct the legacy survey of space and time. It will conduct the LSST. The science collaborations is a community of individuals working on now preparing for doing LSST science. And the LSSTC, which I'm here to speak on behalf of, is currently a coalition of 33 member institutions that are invested in LSST. Now we heard reference already to, so these components of the ecosystem have all been in place and filling different roles and connections relative to each other for over a decade now. And we heard about a new emerging critical part of this ecosystem, which I want to learn more about this week, which are those in-kind contributions from international communities around the world. And I can't remember who, I think it was Adriano that used the phrase, it's even better and more appropriate than paying money for access to data rights. It really builds and makes everyone part of an integrated science community. And we really are in a whole new scale, culture of doing astrophysics with big data sets. So we'll hear more about that from others this week as well. Another difference that makes each of these three entities distinct is where their funding comes from. And I was happy to already get to say hi to Edijar here on behalf of the National Science Foundation. So the Rubin Project to build and to operate Rubin Observatory and the LSST is really funded by the United States government, with NSF providing the majority of the construction funding, with DOE funding the camera. You'll hear a lot more about that, and going half-seas on operations. Of course, there are different international entities and other entities that have contributed to construction. We'll hear about the in-kind for operations. IN2P3 is an example of an organization that's been involved in construction all along, and I got to see Dominique after many, many years, first thing this morning as well. However, the science collaborations, and Fed has been, was for many years a fantastic science collaborations coordinator, and we'll get to hear from Will Clarkson, our next fabulous science collaborations coordinator next. Science collaborations, aside from the dark energy science collaboration, they don't really have their own steady, distinct source of funding. They're a community of scientists that seek funding opportunities independently, probably depending on where you live. Typical modes of PI funding are different. Now, the corporation is a privately funded organization, and we're funded through dues from member institutions, foundations in the United States so far, and private philanthropists. So I won't go into this, but just to underscore, especially since we won't hear key plenaries on this until tomorrow, we've got the operations director for Rubin here, Bob Blum. I've seen him already. Jelko Vezic, the construction director. He may not be coming until tomorrow. And then Victor Krabendam is the project manager here on behalf of the project, along again with many other fantastic leaders of different aspects of Rubin. And they're doing everything from building the Simone Telescope facility in Chile to a data management system, which is now going to be international. The Rubin project will be releasing the data, processing the alerts, providing all data rights holders access to the data and basic tools for that community. The LSST science collaborations, Fed already highlighted some of the diversity of the collaborations. There are 8 currently science collaborations for LSST. Back when I first was involved before the science book was written, I think we may have been 11 at that time. Some of them have consolidated, which is the source of the unwieldy stars, Milky Way, and local volume, a name of a science collaboration, as well as I believe there are 3 international LSST affinity groups and collaborations that work together. And again, it's really remarkable. There's over 1,000 scientists around the world that are parts of these different science collaborations. And so the corporation really feels a complementary role, kind of connecting the dots to support the community in ways that are different than the federally funded project is focused and able to do, and in ways that go beyond the funding sources that science collaborations have been able to match with. And so in our role as a privately funded nonprofit organization, we're working towards a future where resources are available to realize the full scientific potential of LSST. And we're doing that through independent fundraising that deliver programs and advocacy for, again, the full international LSST community. And I know I say the phrase international LSST community a lot, and I want to be clear because the word community means a lot of different things in different contexts. And drawing a line to what Fed was highlighting in the opening of this meeting, part of our mission is to grow what community means. Individuals who right now today don't see themselves as part of the community or identify as being part of the community. Part of our goal is to expand that definition and to include a larger number of voices at the table, not just by inviting them, into science collaborations and meetings, but really have an increased guiding hand in how we do science with LSST. And we're also along those lines working towards a new normal, future where networks and partnerships, which is one substantial focus of the work and advocacy that we do, create a new normal of inclusive participation in astrophysics. So I said that we are a coalition of 33 member institutions, and here's a list, it's also on our website, of those 33 member institutions, and they're very small on the screen. What I've done here is highlight the international member institutions that are part of our coalition. And this is not the old model that some of you may be familiar with, where individual international institutions or sets of investigators would pay money to the corporation to get data rights access. That's the old model. The new model is that there are in-kind contributions managed by the Rubin project in order to have access to data. In our new model, where the corporation is really focused on a strong coalition of invested member institutions doing advocacy and private fundraising to help support our science and build community, some international members have, international affiliates have now become members, and we're not set at 33 member institutions. We're happy to bring more institutions into the fold. And so here I highlight Chile, IN2P3, INAF, as we've already heard, Kavli, Institute for Physics and Mathematics of the Universe in Japan, Linnea, MPIA in Heidelberg, the Institute for Physics in the Czech Republic, and the University of Oxford. And I highlight Ian Chipsey's name here. He's been working closely with the corporation for many years now. He recently transitioned from being head of our admissions committee to really being a interface between the work that the corporation does and the international community. And he really wanted me to make sure that everyone felt welcomed to reach out to him through me or him directly. If you have any questions about what his experience has been specifically as a European member of the LSST Corporation. One really fun aspect of the corporation board meeting we had last week was our representatives. Every single institution has a representative on our institutional board and contributes to shaping and guiding the mission of the corporation and what programs we fundraise for. And so Luis da Costa from LINCC in Brazil and Medric Boquin from Chile were both in Tucson for the whole week. And it was so fantastic having them as really active participants in the meeting, giving their thoughts for how we can best support their communities. Okay, so 33 communities. I've already said some pretty bold things about what the vision is of the corporation. So what does it look like for us to do that? So we're a very small organization with a big scope. And so these boxes are a summary of who do we have on staff? Who's actually employed by the LSST Corporation? The word corporation is also kind of a funny word for a lot of us scientists. Well, right now we just have 4 individuals, and we're hoping today is the deadline for the offer letter to bring a program manager into the fold soon. We have a business manager in Tucson. We have an executive assistant in Tucson. Deno Sokolowski, who many of you may be familiar with, is in New York City at Columbia. She had been the director for science and is now the LINCC director. I would have found LINCC in a couple of slides with our look forward. I'm the executive officer and director for science, and we're hiring a program manager to help ensure the success and that we can implement some of the programs that I'll be highlighting in a couple of slides. So with such a small organization, how do we accomplish these goals? How are we walking down those future roads of having the resources to help our community conduct their science and to have inclusive participation in this cutting edge astrophysics? It really is through that organizing that coalition of member departments and institutions across the world to achieve something that a single institution would have trouble achieving alone. And that's one of our niches. When we go out to foundations in the United States and pitch big, bold ideas, it's not really so one specific institution can do their science. It's about creating networks and funding activities that typical funding vehicles, at least in the US, aren't a very good match for. We use coordinated approaches, again, with different member institutions, and then within our own organization, we coordinate with science collaborations as well, to philanthropists and foundations in order to get our ideas. And when we pursue this funding, we balance community-wide preparation with individual awards and support. And some of the examples I give will shine a light on different ways we support individuals and individual groups, and then large community-focused programs. So today, just in the last, mid-2021, so for just over a year, we're now in a position where nearly $25 million worth of foundation funds have been committed to support LSST Corp programs through 2026. And $9 million of those are directly managed and allocated by the corporation, and the others are through Carnegie Mellon and University of Washington, which I'll highlight. Even in those cases, the examples of the community engagement access of those projects are managed through the corporation. Now, you saw how small the number of staff we have are. A very, very tiny fraction of that is actually for our operating expenses. That largely comes from member dues. This is all money going directly out to the LSST science community. And so, especially for those of you that are familiar with some of the enabling science work and the relationship that the corporation had with different activities through time in the past, I want to show that we're transitioning into a new era in terms of the scope and the scale of the programs that we're working on. So looking back, 5 years ago, so this figure here, there we go. It goes all the way out to 2025, 2026. So here we are, 2022. So if we go back about 5-6 years, 2015, 2016, 2017, most of our early activities with the science collaborations were focused on opportunities to make requests for small grants to really catalyze groups within the science collaborations to kickstart science or explore new ideas to start preparing for Rubin LSST science. The Data Science Fellowship Program, which I'll highlight a little bit more, I think, on the next slide, has been going on for about 5 years. It's wildly successful. A substantial early enabling science grant was given to launch that Data Science Fellowship Program. And a Cadence Hackathon, which took place in 2018, which had, I think, 20% of the participants and the funds for that were distributed to members of the European community. Now, today in 2022, most of our programs fall under this large umbrella of the, let's see if I get all the acronyms right, the LSSTC Interdisciplinary Network for Computing and Collaboration. The Data Science Fellowship Program is now under that umbrella, as well as what are now our 2 flagship programs, the LINCC frameworks, which I'll define, and the Catalyst Postdoctoral Fellowship. And the funding support for these coming from Princeton Foundation for the Data Science Fellowship Program, from the Templeton Foundation for the Catalyst Fellowship, and for the Schmidt Foundation for LINCC frameworks, has moved us now into an era where it's we're spending over $1 million a year, again, pushing that money directly out into the community. And this isn't counting the foundation investment going to hiring groups of software engineers and scientists at 2 of our LINCC nodes that are going to interface with the community at large to help preparations for LSST science. Okay, so taking a look back, some things you may be familiar with that we are continuing on. This Data Science Fellowship Program has been going on for a number of years. It is a 2-year fellowship that is awarded to fortunate graduate students who apply with interest to get training in the sorts of technical skills you need to be successful doing science, doing your dissertation science or postdoc science or early faculty science with the Rubin data set. And not only is it topics of machine learning, statistics, visualization of your data, it also comes with information about science communication skills and how you can best present, advocate, and explain your science to others. Now, this program, I think one of the recent cohorts received over 400 applications for 16 to 20 slots, which is incredible. And I understand from Adam Miller at Northwestern, who's the current director of this program, that 4 of the 16 to 20 fellowships are reserved every year for international students. And priority access for student applicants to this really oversubscribed program is given to people, students who are at member institutions. Another really popular thing that we've been funding that we brought about 35 students, both from international and domestic member institutions, to the Project and Community Workshop in Tucson, Arizona this year. And that's been a really, remained a high priority program for us, even as the size and scope of the programs that we're pursuing for the community has increased. Another one of our bread and butter activities that I'm aware from Jeno and from others has been really successful in engaging our international community have been a series of different workshops that we've either funded from Enabling Science funds or from, let's see, we've got Heising-Simons funds and also Schmidt Future funds have supported the Cadence Hackathon and the Data to Software to Science meetings that took place at the Flatiron Center for Computational Astrophysics in New York City in 2018 and 2022. These were both really engaging and exciting workshops, and thanks to the foundation funding that the corporation provided, these cross-disciplinary workshops that included collaboration with and participation from key Rubin project representatives, we were able to give travel costs to participants, honoraria to individuals that participated in authors of different white papers that came out of the Cadence Hackathon. And both of these workshops resulted not just in publications, but also in forming new collaborations from diverse sets of individuals that haven't previously worked together. And so looking ahead to this brave new future that I said, where are we now? We have recently been awarded $25 million of funding for programs underneath the umbrella of what we're calling the Interdisciplinary Network for Collaboration and Computing. And these 3 different colors on this logo represent the 3 pillars envisioned for this overarching program of training the future astronomers, astrophysicists, data scientists to use LSST data, building the software and tools that go beyond that really important foundation that the Rubin project is building and will provide. But going beyond that to things designed for specific use cases, for specific science cases and specific science collaborations, whereas the project is providing very broad brushstroked, multi-purpose tools that can serve the entire data rights community. And the third pillar is that community building. It's one thing to write software and to build analysis tools. It's another thing to integrate and implement those into the existing community, let alone grow a new inclusive community who identifies with Rubin and to adopt those as well. And this is another area where there's great synergies. And I have to applaud Bob for the way he's drawing connections. The work that the operations team is doing to grow community through the data previews and otherwise. And we have I lose track of how often it is, a monthly Rubin inclusion working group where I'm invited to participate in that, to hear and understand what the project is doing to build community so we can resonate with each other and complement the work we're doing. So the vision for this LINC program is that there will be a network of data science centers at different LSSTC member institutions, and we expect to grow those nodes over time. And the initial currently funded nodes are Carnegie Mellon and University of Washington, because Schmidt Futures had relationships with them and they were most excited to invest in the specific vision and opportunities that CMU and University of Washington could provide. The full scope of this envisioned link that Jenna Sokolowski, the former executive officer Pat Eliason, and our former development director Dan Petruccelli envisioned was a $70 million ask. So that's what they were going to foundations and to high net worth individuals to procure. We need $70 million to do this whole thing. But right now where we are is about a third of that and about a third of the vision to be realized. So LINC frameworks, one of those two pillars, the one supporting some work at the two initial nodes at CMU and University of Washington. This is really focusing on supporting the LSST science community and developing their planned scientific analyses in collaboration with professional software engineers and data scientists. And in the next slide or two, I'll give you a specific example of what that could look like and what opportunity will soon be advertised for you all to consider. I have the names of the folks who are really doing the work on this program here. They're best fit to ask any really specific questions that you have, but I'd be happy to talk about it here real time as well. We have Jenna Sokolowski, who is now the director of the entire LINC program. Jeremy Kubica, who resides at Carnegie Mellon University, and he's the lead software engineer for this LINC Frameworks program. Rachel Mandelbaum is the Carnegie Mellon scientific PI, and Eddie Connolly is the University of Washington scientific PI on this. So CMU and UW are working to hire up small teams of software engineers to be embedded within their local LSST scientific communities and network out beyond their institutions into the broader LSST scientific communities to both build tools that many different science collaborations may be interested to use, and also to partner directly with small teams of scientists spread across different science collaborations and preferentially located at member institutions to help them write the software necessary to analyze the data set of the complexity and volume of LSST. And so this initial concept is called the Frameworks Incubators. And these incubators will run annually for 4 of the 5 years of this project. And the first year of the launch of the incubators program is expected to be next calendar year. And so right now it's in the stage where we're starting to advertise what the opportunity is, getting some feedback on it, and preparing to launch. And so the incubators program is designed to provide support to these teams to work directly with LINC framework software engineers who are at one or more of University of Washington or Carnegie Mellon. So we all know what it's like. You have this bold idea, maybe you don't have the software engineering expertise for your code to run as effectively and efficiently as it needs to run on all the LSST data. But gosh, 1, it costs a huge amount of money to hire a software engineer. 2, it's incredibly difficult to hire software engineers nowadays. If anybody has tried to do so, at least in the US, the expense is extraordinary. And 3, How do you get a software engineer that speaks astronomer and is all onboarded and up to speed already? Those are really valuable resources. And so the idea is to build this cohort of software engineers, again, that is trained up, that understands LSST needs and can speak to LSST astronomers. And so if you have an idea for a new tool to apply to your research program, starting with precursor data and simulations, participating in an incubator can have an immediate impact. And so the goal of this incubator program is to establish long-term collaborations between scientists and software developers that can establish the scientific users who partner with the LINCC frameworks teams, and then also with the LINCC frameworks scientists and software engineers themselves to be more effective in building the general use analysis tools for the community. Okay, so what does this look like? The idea is there will be 6 projects selected every year to participate in the incubators program. And right now the idea is that at least half will be awarded to teams led by researchers at LSSTC member institutions. Now, under resources provided, you'll see that I have a couple of dollar signs, and that's because one of the primary things that I get asked in my new role as an executive officer for LSSTC is, how much money can you give me? How much money will my institution get? Like, what is this worth? Okay, so that's why a little bit of this is always in that language. So each accepted incubator teams will be awarded 20,000 American dollars for any sorts of support that might be needed to make that collaboration with the software engineers the most efficient. Faculty, summer salary, students, travel, paid charges, what have you. I think the most valuable part of this program is the 3 months of dedicated access to, software engineer or engineers and other very, software savvy scientists, including collaboration over a longer period of time than 3 months to advance a compelling science project that needs that specific expertise. And it also comes with computing resources to complete the project. I know this is just a glossy bit of information. We had a big brainstorming session last week on what sort of information would be needed to help the community actually apply to be in this incubator program. So please stay tuned for that in 2023. My guess is maybe 6 months, you'll start to see concrete information rolling out for this. And I'm really excited about this. Our second flagship program and the last major program that I'll advertise, what I'm so thrilled about is the Catalyst Postdoc Fellowship Program. Here are pictures of our first 6 Catalyst postdocs. They've all recently started this position. These scholars are doing their postdoctoral work at these 6 institutions I have on the screen. I'll highlight one of those individuals is at Oxford because it is a member institution. And applications for the second cohort of postdoctoral scholars is now open. Now, again, if you're a graduate student or a postdoc listening to this presentation and you aren't yet familiar with this, I strongly encourage you to go to the LSST Corporation website or Google Catalyst Postdoc Fellowship Program. In the next couple of slides, I'll give some specific details of the program that I think make this a really unique opportunity for LSST and community-minded individuals to participate in it. So the first of 2 detail slides, and again, I think these will be linked to the website or something, so you can go back and take a look later. This is designed to be competitive with other top fellowships in terms of salary and research allowance, designed to be competitive with the Hubble Fellowship. And in fact, one of the Catalyst Fellows who's recently started is taking a split Hubble Catalyst Fellowship to Columbia. You have full academic freedom. We're planning on annual symposia to bring these fellows together. Standard fellowship comes with a 3-year term, and anyone can apply from within or outside the United States. There's delegate status for LSST data previews that are granted automatically to individuals who are Catalyst Fellows to help the fellows serve as ambassadors for Rubin LSST science. That's really one of the intended roles of these fellows, for them to be ambassadors for future science. And you'll be part of LINCC, that interdisciplinary network for computing and collaboration, and opportunities to have different, both participatory and leadership roles related to LINCC. Some of the unique Catalyst postdoctoral features, I'll actually jump to the bottom one here first, because it's one that I'm most excited about. It's the cross-disciplinary with the social sciences. So originally designed to be an Astrophysics Prize Fellowship, the vision was expanded to include social scientists. So some of the fellowships will be awarded to social scientist fellowships who have interest and experience in collaborations, community building, inclusive collaboration and what that looks like and how it can be done. And there's 4 senior social scientists on the steering committee for this collaboration, which really will have a guiding hand on helping to make sure that this and other linked programs are as inclusive as possible. As well as the top 2 here, highly structured approaches to mentoring and leadership, including we pay stipends to individuals who are chosen as mentors for the Catalyst Fellows. So even if you're a more senior scientist, you can take a look and consider about whether you might like to offer your mentoring services to one of these prize fellows to, both get increase your own network and be connected with individuals funded to do independent Rubin science, and also to receive grants to support your own related Rubin science. So wrapping up, how can you get involved? And I don't want the opening speech here to be a sales pitch, but I understand that's part of my job. So are you excited about any of these programs? Please talk to me during this meeting. I would love to tell you more. I would love to help you understand how to get involved, how to apply, or how to have your students get applying to the Catalyst Fellowship, how to get connected with incubators or otherwise. Is your department counting on LSST science, or would you like it to get more involved with LSST science? And also, do you want to show your potential students and faculty hires that your department's invested in LSST and data science? There are a lot of benefits to being part of our coalition to help find new ways to maximize the science we can get out of this totally brave new world of survey and data set that's coming our way. Please talk to me, or please email Catherine Johnston, who I partner with closely to talk to institutions who want to become more involved with the corporation, or also with Ian Shipsey, who also I'm partnering closely with to help institutions who'd like to become more involved with the corporation. As a concluding perspective, just to hit some of my key points home, we're a member-based nonprofit whose vision is to really maximize the scientific output and societal impact of LSST in ways that complement all the fabulous things that are being done by the Rubin Project and operations and that are coming from US federal funding. We work to direct private philanthropy to programs that help prepare the community for LSST. And we do this in a way that takes care of our own, or that takes advantage of our own relationships and experience, and really goes beyond what individuals at individual institutions can do in terms of reaching out to large foundations with ambitious, big plans to be coordinated. And, please talk to me if you want to have a voice in shaping these programs. We would love to have you. We had a lot of fun last week, and I can't wait to hear what science you all want to do with LSST and what challenges you're facing to accomplish that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Beth, for opening the games with a really inspiring vision for the corporation. We have a few minutes for questions. The coffee break is in about 8 minutes. Great with timing, thank you. And she set an example of finishing in time, so for you all. We have about 10 minutes for questions. So if anybody wants to ask a question in person, please go ahead. I'll repeat it on the microphone for the people on Zoom. And if you are on Zoom and want to ask a question, please remember to use the Slack channel, which is being monitored by our amazing Angelka and Dragan. And they will ask the question on your behalf. I'm looking for a hand raised. Otherwise, I certainly do have a question. So I'm going to break the ice by asking you. So I'm actually really excited about the thoughtfulness that went into the mentoring plan for the LSSTC Catalyst Fellows. Do I have to repeat? Did they hear me enough? Okay, so I'm really excited about the thoughtfulness of the mentoring plan for the Catalyst Fellows. But I wonder if, because mentoring is not easy, and it's one of those things that as scientists, they teach us math and then they're like, here are 10 people and the most vulnerable years of their life, please go ahead and mentor them. I wonder if the corporation can support a framework through which we can be also trained as mentors such that we can actually provide a meaningful service.
That's a really excellent point, Fed, and one that's come up. I can't speak to the history of the related discussions, but just in the last month since I've been involved, we've certainly talked about the fact that it's I mean, a lot of, so the more senior of us in the room, we've been on mentoring committees for graduate students, and we've seen what that's like. And I'd be interested for you to come talk to me if you found that was a very satisfying experience, necessarily providing the graduate students with amazing mentoring, because that generally hasn't been my experience. And so not only is it easy to set up a structure, it's hard, as Fed said, to ensure that people understand what it means to mentor. And it's hard to ensure it's even happening. Even if you train the mentors, how do you know it's taking place? So one of the first top priorities of our new project program manager, who we're working to hire, is to ensure, we have to ensure the success of these flagship programs. And a big part of ensuring the success of the Catalyst frameworks is making sure those key qualities that I highlighted, including the mentoring program, are conducted successfully. And I hope that one role, just one of the roles of the senior social scientists who are playing a hand on the steering committee, is to hold us accountable to do things exactly like you're suggesting, Fed. But is it there yet? No, I don't believe it is.
Thank you. Any questions in the room? Yes, Bob. I'm going to hold the mic.
Ciao, Beth. Thanks for the talk. Just reinforce the great working relationship that we're developing and working together with the corporation as the observatory. So I think things are going in a really good direction. I did have a question about the collaborators program. I missed, do we see this centered as a collaboration with the science collaborations, individuals, or an LSSTC institution, or all three? And it seems to me that maximizing the connection to the science collaborations would be a way to really leverage that important activity.
And so you're talking about the framework incubators program. Yeah, that's a really good question that we discussed last week, Bob. So it's now loosely envisioned to be groups of scientists working towards a like goal together. Now that very naturally points to members of scientific collaborations. Doesn't necessarily have to be. One key area that's under discussion is what would the criteria be? So I expect this will be a competitive call to be selected for one of these incubator grants. And the question came up, well, should it be being in a science collaboration? Should it be being in a member institution? And I think it really will be, can you pull something off in 3 months? And I think that teams who are embedded in the science collaborations are especially well positioned for that, because they've been preparing for this for a long time. And that boost in connection with the software engineers, I think this program is really designed to help be a boost for those folks. And naturally, there are many science collaboration, probably a good fraction of science collaboration members have some connection to a member institution. Thank you, Bob.
We have time for one quick question if somebody online has a question. Otherwise, okay, so one question.
Nushkir Chamba, thanks a lot for the talk, Beth. Wish I could have been there in person to talk to you, as there are so many exciting things that will come about from LSSTC. What are you most excited about from LSST scientifically?
Oh, scientifically, I was like, how's the sentence going to end? I have answers for anything. So scientifically, I never get talked about my science anymore. My specific field of research has historically been near field cosmology, using large wide field maps of the sky to use studies of the nearby universe to answer big cosmological questions like, what is the dark matter? How much dark matter is there? What is the nature of dark matter? Over time, my scientific interests have expanded more broadly to be, what can we do with big maps of the sky and repeated images of the sky? But I'm still a nearby universe girl. When you can resolve into individual stars, that's what I like. And if you're interested to talk, please drop me a line. I'll be hard to reach this week, but I'd be more than happy to set up a time to call and talk to you and to hear your ideas.
Let's thank